Right, this is my newly purchased Proto 2000 GP7. Pardon the steadiness, I'm trying to hold the camera with one hand and apply power. This is what happens. Makes the noise, change direction. So it sort of stops, it binds. So something is seized up in the mechanism. See what we can do about it. So first things first, you've got to take this. I apologise, it's hard doing this. This fuel tank, now this takes a bit of prising off sometimes. In this case it certainly has, because there's been some double-sided tape applied. So you need to take that off, put it off to one side, and that reveals two brass screws. And I'm just looking at these screws, and it looks like this is not the first time this loco has been apart, because those screws have got burrs on them. And on each end, which I will point out, and there, beg your pardon, just in under there, behind the coupler pocket, on each end is another screw which has to. Why is this iPad camera not focusing? This is making me cross. There's another screw there, and the two brass ones I mentioned before, so that will remove the weight. And next to come off is that screw on the left hand side of the lighting board, and that will then free that board off, enabling the weight to be removed. It wasn't quite that straightforward. The NMRA plug has to be removed as well, and then that reveals yet another one of these screws just there on that side. So it's the two screws there, and if you look up at this end, there's also another screw there which has to come off. That's holding the lighting on. Right, so pull all this lighting stuff out the way, and it will free the weight off to be removed. Right, well that gear tower cover has to be removed, and I've taken it off on this end here, and that then enables you to free up the gear wheel, the worm I should say. Now this has two bearings on it, those square bits of the bearings, and what I've found is this thing is actually, it's completely gunked up, and the old grease has actually set solid on it. You can't even turn that, so I'm going to have to clean that off, and hopefully a bit of re-lubrication will see it free off. Okay, so let's have a quick look. The gearbox covers are back on. I've put a little bit of lubricant in there, and I've lubricated all the bearings and thing, and the acid test is, I'm just turning this by hand, and that is now moving pretty damn freely. When the worms were off, what I actually did was I got my fingers on the bottom of the wheels, and I just moved them to make sure that all the gears that are actually inside here were free, and they were on both of the both bogies, trucks, whatever you want to call them. The main problem was, just as you saw on the inside there, that worm was not good, gunked up. So let's put it on the track, see how she runs. Okay, I shall apply some power and we shall see what happens. Power just going on now, and there we go. Not just running, but running extremely smoothly, it has to be said. Slight bit of hesitation there. Maybe just wants a little bit of a quick run. Let's have a look. Okay, here we go, back in the opposite direction. Ooh. Oh dear. Now I've seen this before. I reckon when I put a load on this, this is going to start to do the same thing again. We could be looking at some split gears on the main axles. Let's hook it up to a load and see what happens. Right, well I don't even have to hook it up to a load. If you have a listen, you'll hear a thumping noise as this thing travels along. So just start the power off. That's not track joints, that is the sound of a split gear, unfortunately, so that's the next phase. I've determined which, there's one wheel spinning on each of the two bogies, so in order to access the axle gear I have to get this cover off, and that's fairly easy, it just pops off, so I'll do that. I might be able to film this, so let's just see. So you kind of pop in there and you have to spring them sideways to remove them, so you're popping them sideways out that way, and then that cover comes off, and you can then just pull the whole wheel set out with the gears and everything attached, and as demonstrated, this one here, see that that should not spin. Those should be locked solid. So somewhere I'm going to see either a split. Yeah, there it is. Let's see if I can bring this up to the camera. I'll see if I can bring this right up into the. It may or may not focus on it. I don't know. So I might have to just stop this for a minute and try and refocus. There you go. You can clearly see that slit all the way lengthways down that black plastic gear thing. Now I'm going to have to order some stuff from America. Yes, so that is an Athearn Union Pacific F7B unit, and apparently the drive, Proto 2000, actually copied the drive from Athearn, and theoretically the gears should swap straight over. So just to get me going on this locomotive, because I'm desperate to get it going, I'm going to take the gears out of that, and I'm going to transfer them onto the axles on here, and then when I get my replacement axles from America, I will put them straight back onto the F7B. So here we go. And again, just while I've got this running on, I've just taken the other duff axle out. You can clearly see the split there. You can actually see the axle, or you can see the axle all the way through, and that's so it's just a case of taking that gear out and discarding the duff gear and put the good one back on. So here is the Athearn F7B locomotive underside, and if you look at the Proto 2000 one, that's obviously got the gear covers off, but you can kind of see that it's pretty much the same sort of arrangement. So I'll pop a couple of those axles out off one of the things, and I will slide them onto the Proto 2000 axles and see if that works. Here is now the two Athearn ones, and as you can see, these gears are off. I mean, Athearn are, well, they haven't had problems with theirs, so, and those there's no movement there, so I will twist those off. And just as a check, well, when you look, you can see that there is they appear to be identical, well, other than the fact that clearly those two have got splits on them. So let's try and put these back on here. Nice tight fit. And that one there, that's it, that's on. One thing to be careful of when you're reassembling these wheel sets with the gears is if you do as I first showed you, which is just push them straight down onto each other, you end up whereby the bearing is not free to move. So there has to be a very, very small clearance just right there between the end of the gear and the bearing. So you can always check, make sure that that bearing is free to spin. And of course, the final check is to check the wheel distance with your NMRA gauge. Make sure that they fit into the thing and adjust as necessary. We'll just drop that in there. Take a little bit of rigging. You've kind of got to engage the gauge again. You've got to square the bearings up. Actually, what I didn't check was to see, make sure that actually matches. Yeah, that's pretty much spot on. So that matches the other one. Drop that back in, square those. Just rotate those bearings to get them to square up. Like that. Hopefully they'll drop in. That's dropped in there. Pop the covers on. And as just absolute affirmation, what we will do is I will check each one of those to make sure there is there's definitely no movement there. They cannot turn those. So fingers crossed, if I take this back down to the shed, back down to the test track layout, we might get some joy. Thank you, Mr. Athearn F7B. You gave your life graciously. Starting to apply the voltage slowly. The light just starting to come on the front, and here we go, movement. And that looks nice and smooth. Opposite direction, let's see what happens. Light coming on, and we have movement. I think we better give it a test run with a proper load behind it, see how she performs. Seems to be running nicely.